Mokpo, South Jeolla. Mokpo is a port. The title of this song by popular 1930s singer Lee Nan-young probably best describes the city she was born in. Located at the southwestern tip of the Korean Peninsula, Mokpo is one of Korea's 3 port cities and the first to be opened independently on the orders of King Gojong on October 1, 1897. During the Sino-Japanese War in 1894, Korea and Japan agreed a tentative joint clause to open the port in Mokpo the following year. Japan insisted that it build an exclusive settlement near the port, while Korea insisted on establishing a settlement that could be used by all foreigners. These 2 countries were unable to find common ground and the tentative agreement to build the port was scrapped. As a result, the Joseon government of the time decided to open the port on their own, independent of foreign influences. To this day, the Mokpo dwellers are fiercely proud of this independence. But the people of Mokpo say the pride they have of the city is not just because it is one of the 3 major ports in Korea, but because it is a roofless museum that walks you through Korea's modern history, both the good times and the bad. The city structure of modern Korea remains intact in Mokpo, said Kim Jong-sik, the mayor of Mokpo. It is true that some of those modern cultural heritages make us revisit the painful history of Japanese colonization, but it is still important for us to continue to remember it and rightfully pass it down to make sure our history does not get distorted. Mokpo's Mano-dong and Udal-dong areas near Mokpo Port are filled with historical sites that are designated as state-registered cultural properties. Most are Japanese-style houses that were established during the early 1920s and 30s. That is why the Cultural Heritage Administration decided to select Mokpo as one of 3 towns, along with Gunsan in North Jeolla and Yeongju in North Gyeongsang, it believes are historically rich yet relatively unknown. These 3 towns have been dubbed Modern History and Culture Restoration Space, and for the next 5 years, the administration will invest and support their preservation and restoration. When the Korea Junging Daily visited the old downtown area of Mokpo City near the port on Thursday, the area was already going through some transformations. Many old buildings that were unused by anyone except the stray cats on the streets of Mano-dong and Udal-dong were being cleaned out and renovated for new businesses. There's no other city like Mokpo, where modern history has been left so untouched, said Jeon-young, Mokpo City's culture tour guide. With a little bit of support from the government to sweep the floors and reorganize the area, this part of Mokpo will be born again as a tourist hotspot for learning about Korea's modern history. The reason why this part of Mokpo was rapidly developed and heavily influenced by Japan in the early 1920s is because it used to be where the foreign settlement, or concession settlement for foreigners, was located when the port opened in 1897. The initial plan was that many countries would establish their consulates in the settlement, but it was only Japan that actually put the plan into action. Eventually the settlement, which was established by reclaiming land, was mostly occupied by Japanese people. About a decade later, the country came under the colonial rule of Japan. It is best to take the modern history tour around the old town of Mokpo on foot. It will take about 4 to 5 hours to take a good look at all of the buildings. 1. Mokpo Culture Center. Former Honam Bank, Mokpo branch. The tour starts at this former bank building located just 5 minutes on foot from Mokpo Station. The station can be reached by KTX in about 2.5 hours from Seoul. The landmark building was erected in 1929 by influential figures in the Honam region, including a wealthy man named Hyeon Jun-ho, to fight the dominance of Japanese capital. Honam is a historic region that now encompasses North and South Jeolla and Gwangju. The bank's head office was in Gwangju and this building was constructed as its Mokpo branch. It is a 2-story structure made of red bricks. Its exterior was finished with dark reddish tiles, and it is still in good condition today. It symbolized the Koreans' resistance to Japan, explained Jeon. It was constructed solely using Korean capital, and it is said that the bank only hired Korean employees. It is the only modern financial building that remains in Mokpo and is designated as Cultural Heritage Number 29. 2. Deserted. Kim Young-ya Art Hall. Former Mokpo Washin department store. This turquoise-colored, two-story building was erected in 1936 as a local branch of the Washin department store, the first modern department store in Korea that opened in 1931 in Jonggo, central Seoul. The department store fared well in the Japanese colonial era, with wealthy Japanese and Joseon ladies flocking to the popular shop. Despite its popularity, the store closed down after only 2 years. During the 90s, it operated as an art gallery for a while, which explains the English signboard still visible on the building. The old department store has been abandoned for decades, but as word spread that this part of Mokpo would be regenerated, the building has recently been sold to a new developer. We'll work with the new owner and plan to utilize this building as a history and culture complex, explained Park Yun-chol from the Mokpo city government. This building is the largest commercial building that still maintains the early 1930s style in Mokpo. Mokpo Modern History Museum. This modern building was constructed by the Japanese government to launch a company that would monopolize and exploit the Korean economy. The Mokpo branch of this company was originally located in Naju in 1909, but relocated here in 1920. After liberation, the building was used by the newly founded Navy Mokpo Guard from 1946 to 74 and by the military police of Mokpo Coast Defense Headquarters from 1974 to 89. It was left abandoned when the headquarters relocated to Yeongam for about 10 years until 1999. The Mokpo city government decided to renovate the building in 2006 and utilize it as the Modern History Museum. The museum exhibits old photographs of Mokpo and explains the city's history in detail. It opens from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day except Mondays. Tickets cost 2,000 won for adults. A Japanese-style garden that belonged to the late Lee Nan-young, founder of Chosun Refractories. 8. The second floor of the Chongseong-jang guest house that newly opened in August by renovating an old geisha's house. 9. This building was the auditorium of the Simsang Public Primary School, the first school in Mokpo for Japanese students built in 1929. Currently, it is used as an assembly hall by Udall Elementary School. Old Chosun Refractories factory site. A few kilometers east of Mokpo Port, a large factory is left abandoned. The complex was first established in 1938. The company, which still exists, was founded by Lee Nan-young as one of the first companies in Korea to produce heat-resistant materials like bricks. The company enjoyed its glory days in the 70s, adopting new technologies like the 70-meter tunnel kilns, an innovation at the time. After the company began to expand, it had to relocate to bigger sites in Pohang and Gwangyang, leaving it little choice but to abandon the 9,000 pyong, 320,248 square foot, site in 1997. The company now uses this site as a warehouse, but has hardly renovated or maintained the structure. Visitors can see the generations of technology that were used here from the 1930s through to the 90s. Here we have a large kiln where you bake bricks, said Lee from the company. Back then, it was all done by hand by the laborers, so you can see that. Whereas, over here, there's a tunnel kiln that we used in the 90s that baked bricks automatically. It's like a museum if we restore it properly.